Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined in studio today by Jonathan Voico.
Good morning, everybody.
And, of course, most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. And here's how our show's going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a few predetermined topics. For instance, today we're going to talk about how Wicked is doing some great stuff at the box office pre-sales already. Going to talk about Penguin episode 4. Going to be talking about Joker's box office decline and a few things more. But in the second part of the show, we're going to be taking your live comments and questions. If you have a thought, theory, opinion, or question that you'd like us to address on the show, go ahead and fire it on into our tip link at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. Send it on in. And here's the good news. Even if you're watching this show a little bit later in the day when we're not live, or if you're one of the many people who listens to our show on our podcast feed, either on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can still send in a question because this tip link is good 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just send on in your question and we'll just get around to answering it on the next episode. All right, guys. That all down, let's get things started with this. This weekend, little horror franchise continued with its third part, Folie à Trois, opened up in theater, called Terrifier 3. And, you know, it's done really well for a little horror slasher franchise, like super low budget, made a few $1 million. It's done really great. So the third film opens, and it opens, check this out, at number 1 at the box office, with $18.3 million. Now, while you may say, and you'd be right to say, $18.3 million isn't exactly a great opening weekend. That's not exactly blockbuster. True. But why are you popping bottles if you're the studio behind Terrifier? Because Terrifier cost $2 million to make. And if I read correctly, they only spent $500,000 on marketing the movie.
Wow.
In a world where even small budget movies will spend $10 million on marketing, they spent about $500,000 on marketing, bringing their grand total cost to about $2.5 million. They made $18.3 million in their opening weekend. Now, to put this success a little bit more in focus, think about this. Terrifier has made $2 million, or has made on a $2 million budget, $18 million in its opening weekend. Whereas one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, and I don't say that facetiously, Francis Ford Coppola is the man. One of the greatest filmmakers of all time made a movie for $120 million. So what's that? My math is bad. What is that? 60 times? Yeah. 60 times more money than what Terrifier did.
Yeah.
And it has made $10 million in 3 weeks. Terrifier 3, on a $2 million budget, has made $18 million in its opening weekend. Megalopolis, by one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, spent $120 million, and it has made $10 million.
So, I mean, let's see.
3 weeks.
Let's be like 12 on top of that. So, like, in 3 weeks, what do we think Terrifier 3 is going to amass?
Let's see. I mean,
25 mil?
It'll have a decent second weekend drop off. So maybe I'm thinking 28.
Yeah, okay. I had 25. So
yeah, 25 to $28 million after 3. It'll almost triple what.
Which, if you had $2.5 million to invest and you came back with 25 to 28 million in profit, you'd be like, wow, man, a 10 bagger. I did it.
Now, look, here's one of the most interesting things about this to me. Now, I'm not a Terrifier fan. Granted, I only watched one of the original 2 movies, and it wasn't for me. That's fine. But it has a very passionate fan base, right? Very passionate fan base. to me, the big thing isn't the $18 million opening weekend. Most movies would consider that not a very good opening weekend. For them, they do because they only spent $2 million making it. Fantastic. The really impressive part here to me is that there are films that spend $20 million on a marketing budget to get a $20 million opening weekend. This thing spent roughly $500,000 on a marketing campaign. They did all their marketing virally through online, as much free source as they can, ground game, really mobilizing the existing fan base that was there and all that kind of stuff. And the fact that they parlayed a $500,000 marketing budget, which is what some movies spend on lunch, and turn that into an $18 million opening weekend is huge. See, some people today are going around saying, wow, studios are really going to be looking at how they made a $2 million movie into an $18 million. No, they're not. No, they're not. What exhibitors and distributors are looking at, the real story is they're looking at how they turned a $500,000 budgeted marketing campaign into an $18 million opening weekend. Not a $2 million production budget movie, a $500,000 marketing budget movie, how they turned that into $18 million.
Yeah.
I remember the first movie that really tried, the first major Hollywood film that really tried to leverage online momentum to push their marketing. And they spent more than $500,000 was Snakes on a Plane.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
They utilized online as much free avenues as they could.
Yeah.
To try to get that going. And they weren't able to have nearly the success because they still had a fairly decent marketing budget, but it was low. They really leaned into online, and it came in to this. Here's let me ask you something, John.
Yeah.
When you look at this little chart I put together, this little graphic.
Yeah.
Does this thing, what's the bigger story on this? And I didn't think about this till right now. Is the bigger story on this, does this little graphic really represent the surprise success of Terrifier 3? Or is the bigger story here the highlight of just how badly Megalopolis did? What's jumping at you the most?
I think it comes down to the Megalopolis to me because of everything that was backing it. You can't say big studio. He funded it himself, and he had to pay for distribution. But that just speaks to the failure even further to me. What speaks to Terrifier 3 is this baked-in base of fandom. I didn't realize the fandom was this big, that you could spend $500,000 and you'd make $18 million on opening weekend. It kind of reminds me of what Smile 2 did with their or Smile 1 did with their marketing. They made about $22 million on their opening weekend and went on to make $200 million. Now, I don't think Terrifier is going to have the wherewithal to make.
It's not going to have the legs of Smile.
To make
not at all.
If you were to compare those two, that would be like 180 but that's 10 times what Terrifier has already made. It's not going to do that, but it just goes to show you, like, nowadays, take advantage of the marketing tools you have. You don't have to go huge, and break. You have to do, what was that? It would have been like $1 million with 50%. I mean, even that would have still been pretty lean, but I mean, my goodness, I think most people would have thought $1.5 million on marketing for Terrifier 3, but.
And you know what this reminds me of? This also reminds me back when Blair Witch Project came out.
Yeah.
Blair Witch Project, which was basically a movie that was made for bus fare.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, literal bus fare. Like, especially if you talk to the actors who were in it. I mean, it kind of reminds, some of the buzz I'm hearing now in conversation is you can make some super low budget films, and if you have the right idea for them and angle them right, you can make millions of dollars in profit.
Yeah, it was
and you know what?
$60,000 on Blair Witch, that original Blair Witch, $60,000.
$60,000 was the production budget.
Yeah.
And now, granted, once it kind of became recognized that this was a hot little film, I think the distributor did put some okay money behind it marketing wise.
Yeah.
But again, it's starting up that same conversation. Like, I don't know, maybe you can take these little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 million. Remember, much more expensive. But that Elizabeth Moss Invisible Man movie, I think they made that movie. I think the production budget was $8 million. $8 million.
Yeah.
So there are movies you can make that may not get blockbuster numbers, may not get $100 million worth of people coming out to it. You can make these low budget films and enjoy good success.
Yeah. In the world of baseball, these would be known as base hits.
Base hits.
Just
may not be
base
your
to
home
base,
runs.
baby.
May not be your home runs.
Base to base.
But they get on base.
They certainly pay the bills of your studio.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about the success? I mean, great. Listen, let's not pretend it's something that it isn't. An $18 million opening weekend is not something that's going to be sung about in history. But it was a movie that was made for $2 million at a $500,000 marketing budget. And it's crushing a $120 million movie by Francis Ford Coppola that's been in theaters for 3 weeks and has only made $10 million. What stands out to you the most in this? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, one of the common refrains the last number of months has been when we've talked about the movies that are going to be big this year. Whenever I've brought up Wicked, I've faced a cacophony, Jonathan, of people in our own live chat saying, you're crazy. Nobody cares about Wicked. No one's going to go to see Wicked. Wicked's going to flop.
Come on.
Our own viewers.
I know. But the whole time I was thinking, do you understand the popularity this play had, not just like on Broadway or in LA, I mean, nationwide, and the soundtracks that were, the amount of the soundtracks sold to people across America who were like just enamored by this music and the performances. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be like $1 billion film, but when people are like, nobody cares about this, I'm just thinking.
Oh, I know. And listen, I will say it does have a shot. I'm not saying it will hit $1 billion, but I think this movie has a shot. And the problem is because people only consider things that their own little circles talk about, right? Because people in my little circle aren't all about Wicked. And I'm sure a lot of people who watch our show, their social circle probably doesn't talk a lot about Wicked. But when talking about the potential movies, you got to be able to look outside of your circle because there's a hell of a lot of people that love Wicked. But still, I've had my own viewers tell me that nobody cares about Wicked. No one's going to go see it.
I don't know. 2017, 2.6 million copies of the soundtrack sold. That's 2017.
Well, here's some 2024 numbers.
Yeah.
Because according to Deadline, Wicked and Fandango, Wicked has sold the most first day tickets of the year other than Deadpool and Wolverine.
Okay.
More tickets sold on its opening day of ticket sales, only beat by Deadpool and Wolverine. Deadline writes the following. Wicked is also the best PG-rated first-day ticket pre-seller of 2024 for Fandango and the number 3 best PG-rated first-day ticket pre-seller of all time, only behind the theatrical hits of Frozen 2 and 2019's Lion King. Those last two movies respectively posted 3-day weekends of $130.2 million and $191.8 million. Those are the only PG films in history that have sold more opening day tickets, and they went on to have opening weekends of 130 and 190 plus. And I remember seeing some people writing numbers. Wicked will be lucky if it makes 30 million opening weekend and 20 million opening weekend. Listen, this thing's got a chance of being $100 million opening weekend movie.
Mm-hmm.
And while I still don't know that I'm willing to embrace this theory, there are now some people thinking that the Gladiator 2 Wicked weekend could be the next Barbenheimer.
Oh,
Now,
wow. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I agree with that as well, but
yeah, I'm not sure I'm
if
willing
it has
to embrace that.
If it has echoes of that, the theaters are going to be really happy.
I'm just saying that, you know, I personally have not thought Gladiator 2 is going to do all that well, but the trailer view numbers have been very impressive.
This second trailer won me over.
Oh, the second trailer was so much better than the first trailer. So that first trailer was, I think, a big swing and a miss. The second trailer for Gladiator 2, much better. But the numbers, the viewership numbers and the online social media discussion numbers of Gladiator 2 have been much better than I thought they would be.
Mm-hmm.
So like, whereas nobody believed in Wicked, and I was saying, guys, you're sleeping on Wicked, I think everybody was saying, John, Gladiator 2 is going to be pretty good. And I've been the one saying, I don't know that Gladiator 2 is going to be or going to do very well, but maybe it's looking like it might. That could end up being a really big weekend for the movie theaters.
I have a Halloween prediction. If not this Halloween, by next Halloween, you're going to see a lot of these costumes right here.
Oh my God. Oh, you're going to see it. This is going to be the new version of Frozen. Because, whenever you go to Disneyland, whenever you go out on Halloween, whatever, you're always going to bump into 10,000 little girls dressed as
Elsa and whatever.
Yeah. Babby and Booby. I don't know what their two names are. But I think this... Now, it maybe not this Halloween because the movie's not going to be out yet.
But between the two movies, you're going to bookend that? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, you're going to start seeing a lot of these costumes out there. This movie could very well be $100 million opening weekend. And again, $1 billion film, I think it has a shot, depending on how good or bad the movie is. Like, if the movie's okay, probably not. If the movie's great... then I think it's got a shot at being $1 billion film. But even if not, take the $1 billion club out of it. This movie is going to be big. It's going to be big. Not Deadpool and Wolverine big. Not Inside Out 2 big.
Yeah.
But Guardians of the Galaxy 3 big? Definitely in that neighborhood. Definitely in that neighborhood. So, and you're going to see a lot of costumes. You're going to see the soundtrack is going to become a #1 bestseller, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, guys, question is for you. Now that you're seeing the advanced ticket sales on this Wicked movie, what are you thinking? Do you think it can possibly be $100 million opening week? I mean, maybe more realistic might be 85 or something like that, but there's a lot of projectors right now saying it's going to crack $100 million. What do you think? Whatever your thoughts are, guys, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we still got to talk about that Penguin episode last night. Because I'll say it, Penguin is the best show on TV right now. It's the best show on TV right now. Also, I thought we were done talking about Joker 2, but it just broke an all-time record and not one of the good ones. So we're going to talk about that and a few things more. But before we do, we're going to take a second to thank one of the sponsors of our video. I love these guys, the folks at Mando. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Mando. Guys, I've got to tell you about something that changed my whole body care game. Mando Whole Body Deodorant. Now, I first heard about Mando last year when they offered to become a sponsor of the show, and I was honestly skeptical. I mean, a deodorant can't really control odor for 72 hours, can it? But after using it myself, I am a believer. You can use it anywhere on your body, and I mean anywhere. It's clinically proven to keep you smelling fresh for up to 72 hours without any irritation. I'm loving the Clover Wood scent, but they've got options like Bourbon Leather, Mount Fuji, Pro Sport, and even unscented if you prefer to go stealth mode. I like to use it after the shower, before the gym, or even important meetings. It's that reliable. And right now, Mando's got a killer deal. New customers get $5 off their best-selling starter pack with my exclusive code CAMPEA. That's over 40% off. Just go to shopmando, that's shopmando.com, and use the code CAMPEA. Seriously, guys, if you want a deodorant that's aluminum-free, baking soda-free, and just works better than anything else you've tried, it's time to make the switch to Mando. So don't wait. Control body odor anywhere with Mando. Head over to shopmando.com and use the code CAMPEA and get $5 off your starter pack. Trust me, you're going to love it. That's at shopmando.com. Go and check it out now. And thank you to our friends at Mando for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on to this. I have been loving Penguin. I expected Penguin to be good because the Batman was great. I loved Colin Farrell's manifestation of Oz in that. I knew the show would be good. I wasn't prepared for how good. Now, I said last week, it's time to just say it. This isn't just a great comic book show. This is a great show that I would put up there. I'm not saying it's as good as House of the Dragon. I'm not saying it's as good as Last of Us, but it belongs up in those conversations with the best shows out there in television.
Yeah.
Right? And after watching the episode last night, and by the way, the Batman
agrees.
The Batman agrees. The Batman just sent in like a $50 chat badge. Thank you, the Batman, for that. Appreciate that. This is, of all the shows currently airing, understanding that Shogun isn't airing right now and whatever, this is the best show on television right now. This is the best show airing out there right now. And last night, episode 4, and just to give you guys a heads up, a little bit of a warning, I am going to go into some details about last night's episode, okay? You've been warned. I'm letting you know right now. You want to put up our little spoiler thing here? If you want to wait, if you don't want to hear anything, any details about last night's episode, wait until this spoilers badge disappears. So you can mute your thing right now, mute your computer, mute your TV right now. Then when this goes off, then you can unmute your TV. By the way, the Batman just continues to keep sending in support. Loves the Penguin. Loves the Penguin. So last night, they did something where I love when shows are able to throw in a curveball that completely make us look at everything we've seen in the show so far from a completely different perspective.
Right.
Because I am one of the suckers. I'm sure some of you guys out there probably knew they might do something like this, but I didn't. I am one of the guys that have believed up until this point, Sophia was a killer, and that that Penguin turned her in, and now she's out and just looking to get sweet, delicious payback. And then last night's episode that focused completely on Sophia completely changed my perception of the first 3 episodes. But here's the thing. Some television shows try to do that. They throw you a curveball that tries to make you look at but it doesn't make logical sense. Like it doesn't fit with it contradicts a lot of the stuff. This episode of Penguin, with focusing all on Sophia, totally changes the way I saw everything, and it was perfectly logical.
Yeah.
It made perfect sense because she has said in previous episodes, I'm not the hangman.
Right.
But you just think that's her way of saying that's not just who I am or whatever. Like, I'm not some total psycho. Yeah, maybe I killed some people. No. She never killed anybody. At least not when she was accused of killing people. And you know what? This episode reminds me of one of the greatest movies of all time, Shawshank Redemption. One of the single greatest cinematic achievements ever, period. If you've never seen Shawshank Redemption, it is top 5 greatest film ever made in history.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Anyway, Andy Dufresne, Tim Robbins. There's a line in the movie when he basically says, I'm an honest man. It took me coming to jail to become a criminal.
Right.
And Sophia Falcone was granted, she was Carmine Falcone's daughter. She was lined up to take over she was not an angel.
Sure.
But she was no killer. It took her going to jail to become a killer. And all of a sudden, I started looking at everything way different. And I tell you what else changed.
Justice for Magpie.
Justice for Magpie. I'll tell you what else changed. The way her brother was still there by her side in the first 3 episodes, I thought was beautiful. And her anger at whoever killed him, times that by 100 now. The fact that she was innocent and set up by her dad. By the way, if you can't get John Turturro to come back, getting yourself some Mark Strong to play Carmine Falcone was pretty good.
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, okay, it's not Turturro, obviously. Who is this? And I finally keyed in
And
Mark
how often
Strong.
do we see Mark Strong with hair?
I know.
Not often.
Yeah.
So Mark Strong was a great fill-in for a slightly younger Carmine Falcone. I guess he was supposed to be 10 years younger.
Yeah.
So that all happens, and then you see what she went through in Arkham, that she was there for 10 years living in that.
Can you believe in that? I mean, obviously, yes, it's a madhouse, but can you believe that it's a nightmare?
It's a nightmare, which is really the way Arkham should be portrayed.
I think so far this Battinson verse of Arkham is one of my favorites. It reminds me so much of the video game of Batman Arkham and all of that. It's just such a dark, terrible place.
And it made me believe the transformation of this Sophia we saw, who is celebrating her dad's birthday, to the Sophia we see now, and what that did to her.
Yeah.
And then, oh my God, she pulls a Godfather.
Well, I was thinking
settles family business at the end.
A Godfather. You mentioned Game of Thrones earlier. I feel like she pulled a Cersei
with the dragon fire.
Yeah.
Blowing up the whole place.
Yeah. I was waiting for that theme song, with that piano theme song to start playing, you know? By the way, Batman has now given us another 60 since, so I haven't called that out.
And here's the other thing this episode does, is that, and we've talked about this before, but it really puts an exclamation point on it.
Yeah.
One of the things I've loved about Penguin so far is that they have not tried to make Penguin some kind of anti-hero. They've not tried in this show to just paint Oz as being misunderstood. He's the protagonist of the show, but he's also the villain.
Yeah.
He is the bad guy. Whenever movies and TV shows try to focus on the villain, they try to paint them in a more sympathetic light, show them as just being really misunderstood, or, you know, they're not all that bad. They have never shied away. It's like, no, Oz is a dick. He's smart. He's a fascinating character, but he is what he is. He's the Penguin. And with this turn that they showed us with Sophia, it has really, like, I saw several people in our live chat going, I'm cheering for Sophia now. I think that's been the whole point.
Yeah.
Penguin is the villain of Penguin. And I love how they open the episode showing what the conversation that happened when they're on their knees and they're at the gunpoint, and the truth is coming out in front of Sophia, who realized she's been played. But my biggest problem with Penguin, my biggest problem is at the episode's end. That's it. I am never madder in a given week right now than when the screen goes black and credits start to roll. I'm like, no!
Yeah.
I want more! Oh, God, man, this show's so good.
Really is. I mean, historically, Penguin has been one of the least favored of the Rogues Gallery for Batman. Joker has been obviously the top. And we are literally living in a week where more people are tuning in to see the Penguin than are going to see anything with the Joker in it. I think that's kind of telling.
I mean, that's true. You know where, for me at least, Joker or Penguin, because I think even historically, I'm just talking about myself as a reader and as a viewer. I've always looked at, even in Tim Burton's Batman 2, his Batman Returns, I've always looked at Penguin as a minor secondary character.
Sure.
Again, I'm not saying that's the way we should look at him. I'm just saying that's the way I go. I think my perception of Penguin started to change. There's a storyline in the comics called No Man's Land that I've talked about several times over the years. That was the one, to me, that really started making me look at Penguin a little differently. And then again, what they did with him in the Batman was so cool. And then what they're doing here is amazing. I just can't wait. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What did you think about last night's episode of Penguin? I thought it was amazing. This show is, I think, the best show currently airing on TV. It's getting better and better every single episode. I cannot wait to see what happens next. Anyway, whatever you guys think, you can take the spoilers thing down now.
Yeah.
Jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? It's not big news that Joker 2 is absolutely horrible, and it's not big news that Joker 2 It's a flop, especially as a $200 million movie. Just to give you guys some perspective, that is 100 times a bigger budget than what Terrifier 3 had. But oh my God, it just did something that I did not think it would do. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now official. Joker 2 has finished its second weekend, and it is now the worst second weekend in the history of the comic book genre. The biggest second weekend drop-off in the history of the genre.
Wow.
Comicbook.com headlines this: Joker 2 box office plunges in a second weekend, the worst drop ever for a comic book movie, and one of the worst drops ever for a wide release Hollywood film in history, comic book movie or otherwise. And if you want to get a sense of what kind of company now Joker 2 is in, take a look at this. Joker 2 is now the biggest drop-off ever in history for the genre at 81.3%. And again, that makes it one of the biggest second weekend drop-offs in movie history, let alone the comic book genre. But in the comic book genre, that means it has beat out the Marvels, that had a 78% second weekend drop. That, I'll be honest with you, there were conversations saying that will never be beaten. When that 78% drop happened, a lot of people said, and I didn't disagree, that that's a second weekend drop off that will never be beaten by a wide release film in the genre.
Joker said, "Hold my chattering teeth."
Hold my chattering teeth. It also beats Shaquille O'Neal's Steel. Woo! That had a 78% drop. It was a worse second weekend drop off than Morbius. That had a 74% drop off. A worse second weekend drop off than The Flash. That had a cataclysmic 72% drop off. A worse second weekend drop off than X-Men Dark Phoenix at 71. A worse second weekend drop off than Hellboy 2 at 70. Ladies and gentlemen, Joker 2 had a worse second weekend drop off than Jonah Hex and Ant-Man 3, both which had a 69% drop off respectively.
69, dudes!
I knew that was coming.
That's what she said.
This is, in all the wrong ways of using the term, remarkable. It is an absolute remarkable. I need you to keep this in mind. Joker Filet Adieu made $7 million in its second weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Transformers 1, which unfortunately is a total flop, and it's great. I can't emphasize it. Transformers 1 is great, and it's a total flop. But Transformers 1, which in and of itself is a complete and total flop, is in its fourth weekend and made $3.5 million, $3.6 million. Joker made $7 million, a $200 million movie, Joker Folie à Deux, a sequel to a billion-dollar film, a sequel to an Oscar-winning film, a sequel to a film that was nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. It's taken an 81.3% drop.
Wow.
In its second weekend. Now, if you would have asked me last week, because I think somebody asked me over under 65% drop. I said, that's a good line. I'll take the over on 65. But I didn't, because you got to remember, the first weekend was a big disappointment. The first weekend, it only made 40 million bucks, 37 something, right? So that means a lot of people didn't go see it. I said, even out of morbid curiosity, I think there's going to be still a decent amount of people to go see it. So it'll have a big drop off over 65%. But I didn't think it would be 80% or 91 or 81.3%. I didn't think it would, I would not have thought it was going to be that big.
Yeah, because usually with movies like that, you're going to get like a gradual, peel off, not a drop as if it was a tentpole film.
No. I mean, and again, this is the sequel to what was the highest grossing R-rated film of all time.
Yeah.
a billion-dollar comic book property, an Oscar-winning film, only the second comic book movie in history to be nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards, beloved, and that's how bad it is.
Just as many people went to see Beetlejuice in its sixth weekend as saw Joker in its second.
That is dumbfounding. That is absolutely. By the way, Beetlejuice 2 has now crossed $400 million. It has officially made more than Black Adam.
Yeah.
Beetlejuice 2, ladies and gentlemen, is officially now made more than Black Adam.
It's a Black Adam plus.
I didn't personally like Beetlejuice 2, but I know a lot of people did. And it's, man, if you had asked me, God, if you had bet me, if you can get into a time machine and go back 4 months and say, John, I will bet you $10,000.
Need my sports almanac.
That Beetlejuice 2 will end up making, what number do I want to throw out there? Will end up making more than double of what Joker 2 makes. You would be collecting $10,000 from me because I would have happily taken that bet.
Yeah.
I would have taken that bet and laughed in your face, and I'd already be in Vegas spending that $10,000 knowing that it was coming to me any minute
because,
now.
like, for me, I was looking forward to Beetlejuice 2, but I was excited about Folie à Deux. And
I was too for a long time.
Yeah.
I was too. I mean, the trailers weren't great. The trailers weren't great, but and look, was it a questionable decision to go with the musical route? Yes, but I thought it was ballsy. I thought it showed willingness to take a risk with it and roll the dice on. I thought, you know what, this could be really good.
Yeah.
And it ended up being a disaster.
The problem is to me, the musical numbers were an afterthought that didn't push the narrative.
No.
I don't care. I love Moulin Rouge. I like musicals. That's not the problem. It's that it was jarring. It was like, what is...
No, and I've said it several times. I said it in my first out of the musicals work when the music tells the story. You know, you look at a movie like one of my all-time favorites, Moulin Rouge, or you look at Greatest Showman with Hugh Jackman, right? When the music starts, they're telling you the story in the music. In Joker, they stop the story so they can do a musical number.
Yeah.
Story stops so they can do a musical number that doesn't do anything to progress the film. And like, when I first saw it, because I got to see it a little bit early, because they did that early, those fan screenings that a bunch of people got to go to. And when I went to go in to go see it, Joker 2 still had I believe a 63% on Rotten Tomatoes. Only a few critics had seen it. So it had like a 60 something percent. So I'm like, and which wasn't far off.
Yeah.
From where the first Joker was.
We talked about it. We were like, this is on par.
Yeah, the first Joker had a 60-something percent too, right? Because it's not for everybody. So when I came out of it, I remember getting ready to do my out-of-theater reaction, and I thought to myself, people are going to hate me for saying this, and I'm going to be the only one that comes out and says Joker 2 sucks. But I had to because I thought it was terrible. So I came out of the theater, and you guys who saw my out-of-theater reaction, I was like, this movie sucks. It's awful. Everything right that the first Joker film does, the second one gets wrong. Everything the first one did right, the second one does wrong. And it turns out I was not alone because now it's got a 33% and a 32% audience rating.
Yeah, and again, this kind of goes to another subject, but like, look, the critics and the audience, more often than not, are actually in line with each other. A lot of people like to say they're not, but they are.
Oh, 90% of the time they are.
And look at this. So that, you know.
And by the way, just want to remind everybody that Madam Web has a higher audience score than Joker 2.
Yeah.
But again, despite how much I disliked it, despite the critic score and the audience score and all that kind of stuff, I have to confess, did I see the biggest second weekend drop in the genre's history at the box office ever? No. No, I didn't see that coming. And so, ladies and gentlemen, the failure. What is Vader's line? Your failure is now complete.
Yep.
The failure of Joker Folia Do is now complete. What a disaster this entire movie has been. And again, you know what? I don't even think it would shock me so much, or I wouldn't even care about it so much if I didn't love the first one so very, very much. But it is what it is. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? What do you think the contributing factors? Obviously, the movie isn't that good. But other than that, what do you think? We've seen lots of not good movies. We've seen worse movies have better second weekend drop-offs than this. What do you think contributed to being the biggest second weekend drop-off ever in the history of the genre? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we're now going to move on to the most important part of our show, which is, of course, taking your live comments and questions. But before we do, we're taking another quick second to thank another sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at the Dollar Shave Club. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Dollar Shave Club. Hello there, my fellow handsome gentlemen. Nice face you shaved there. Whether you're going smooth shaven or maintaining a beard, Dollar Shave Club offers shave and grooming products that are always high quality, but never overpriced. If you like to wet shave for that clean, close shave, they've got the Club Series 6 Blade Razor. A shave so comfy your skin will take a nap. 6 stainless steel blades for our closest and most comfortable shave, with a vitamin E infused lubricant strip for comfort and glide, and precision trimmer for precise detailing. Their amazing shave butter, clear view, smooth glide, designed for precision. Shave butter is a translucent shaving cream alternative that allows you to see exactly where you're shaving. Bonus, it has long-lasting lubrication that helps soften whiskers for maximum glide and leaves your skin feeling hydrated. But don't take our word for it. Try it for yourself. You can visit their site right now for 20% off, $20 or more, and get your products delivered right to your door. Visit dollarshaveclub.com/Campea and use promo code Campea for 20% off, $20 or more. And remember, however you shave, Dollar Shave Club is here to help you stay handsome. And thank you to our friends at the Dollar Shave Club for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's get on to your questions here, shall we? Jonathan, what do we got up first?
Well, your moisty boy says, hey, John, been watching since right before you left Collider.
Oh, thank you, man.
Saw Joker, not great. If Joker 1 was inspired by King of Comedy and Taxi Driver, seemed like the sequel was inspired by Matrix Resurrections and M. Night's Glass. Thanks.
Yeah, again, look, to me, the biggest issue with Joker, the musical stuff was one of them, but I mean, the biggest issue with Joker, and I've said this before, is that when you look at the first Joker, every single scene had something to say. It was either making an observation about something, holding up a mirror to our own culture and society, and some of the struggles, and whether it's how we deal with mental health or class separation or all that kind of, like, it felt like everything in that movie was allegory and had something to say. This movie had nothing to say. I'm not even all that upset that it turns out at the end he was never the Joker anyway. Like, I'm not even, I mean, that was a stupid ending and that was dumb, but the movie still could have been good even with that ending. I'm just saying the movie itself had nothing to say. It was all just a post-credit scene. The entire movie was a post-credit scene to the first Joker movie. That's all it was. The entire Joker 2 movie could have been summed up in a 5-minute post-credit scene. And it's just really too bad. All right, what's next?
James B says, John, I messaged yesterday about the amount of hate promotion on YouTube. I want to follow that up with a thank you for this channel. Agree, disagree. I always enjoy the conversation, leave feeling better for it. Thank you and the team. Love your work.
Oh, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, look, I have a couple of guiding principles for my channel. Number one is that I want everybody to love everything they see, right? I even if it's stuff that I don't like I didn't like Beetlejuice 2, but I love that there are people who enjoyed Beetlejuice 2. I didn't like Joker 2, but I love if other people did. And I always want to make sure in our channel, like, there's room for that, hey, if I love something, doesn't mean you needed to love it. And if you love something, it doesn't mean I needed to love it. And we can all talk about it and have fun together. Like, that's important. The second thing for me is, while there will always be negative things to talk about, I want to make sure that when I go to the front of my YouTube channel, that like 80% if I count up all the videos, that I want to make sure like 80% are either about things that I find really interesting or things that I really enjoy and like. There's always going to be things that are disappointing or things I'm going to rant about or be mad about, but that's kind of what I've always wanted my channel to be, because that's the way I try to be as a fan. But anyway, I'm glad you're along and I'm glad you appreciate it. So thank you so much for the kind words, man. All right, what's next?
We got, let me see if I can fit this in here a little like better real quick. Just patience, please, because the letters are cut off. Okay, Joey says, hi, team. I just wanted to point out that in the source material, Wanda manifested her kids in House of M, another alternate reality that Wanda shuts down. When the kids come to the MCU proper, they come as reincarnations as biological children of Wanda.
Yeah, I've had to have these discussions with people before, and there is some fundamental misunderstanding about how they handled it in the comics. But anyway, even that aside, it does not matter how you handled it in the comics if it does not work with the continuity you have created in the screen version. It doesn't matter that, well, in the comics they did this, if everything in the comics that happened before that is completely different than what they've done on the screen. The comics are the comics, the screen is the screen. Now, it's fine if everything that happened before that led up to that in the comics is exactly what they had done in the shows and the movies. Then yes, then you can look at the comics and say, well, they did this in the comics and they did it in the screen. And in the comics, it led to this, therefore it would make logical sense that in the movies or on the screen, it would lead to that. But they're completely different. Therefore, you can't just go, well, you know, in the comics, they did this. Yeah, but in the comics, that also happened in outer space 500 years in the future on a different planet. So you can't just say because that happened here. My problem with what they've done in Agatha, which by the way is a show I'm enjoying and I'm liking, and I'm okay that they've done this if it leads to a good show, then I'm fine with it. I'm just saying the reason I have problems with it is because with your screen world, because the MCU on screen is different than Marvel Comics. What you've now done is completely inconsistent logically with what you've done on the screen. It does not fit with what you've done on the screen. So you can bring up, well, John, you know, in the comics they did this. That's completely irrelevant because everything that led up to that is completely different circumstances and context than what has led up to that moment on the screen. You can't just pull that out of there and say it applies here. And that's been my issue, is that what they've done on the screen makes no sense with what they've done on the screen so far. So, but again, I'm open to it. The result was the episode was a good episode. I like the episode. It's a thumbs up from me. And even though I wish they didn't do this because it doesn't make any logical sense, it doesn't mean they don't have a good plan for it and can end up being enjoyable. So we'll see. All right. What's next?
Anorak the All-Knowing says, so excited for F4 next year. I love the casting. I hope we get to see Jack Kirby's power effects in live action for Shalabal's character. It is taking place in the 60s, would be a nice nod for its time. The 60s in another universe, but yes.
And Shalabal, that, by the way, that's a version of the Silver Surfer for those people who don't know. So, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Jonathan, because that's key. Like a lot of people saying, I still see a lot of people not understanding that that it's a 1960s aesthetic, but it is not our world.
Yeah.
So like I've had people writing in and say, well, John, since Fantastic Four is taking place in the 60s, that means this, this, and this should be there. And which you got to remind, if you see your fellow fans not understanding this, it is not our universe. It is not our world. What is 1960s in whatever world Fantastic Four is taking in is very well could be very, very different from our 1960s. Because it's not our Earth that it takes place in. They've been very, very clear about this. It's a different universe. I only say that because you need to keep your expectations flexible about what we may or may not see in the movie. Right? Because they could have, I don't know, they could have Taylor Swift. I'm just pulling something out of the air. They could have Taylor Swift in that world, and you can't go, well, they can't have Taylor Swift because it's the 1960s. Well, in that universe, maybe. Because just because Taylor Swift was around in the 2020s in our universe doesn't mean she couldn't have been around in the 1960s in another universe. I'm just saying we need to keep our expectations flexible. But I'll tell you what, the more I'm seeing from this movie, the more and more excited I'm getting. They have a terrific director attached, and that's always the most important thing. They've done a great job with the casting. And man, at the John Williams concert, when they performed for the first time ever publicly, the score.
Oh yeah.
I loved it.
I remember watching videos of that. It was really good. Yeah.
I'm actually really excited. I'm getting more enthusiastic about this movie as we get closer to it. All right, what's next?
Okay, we got Multiverse, who says, "Hey crew, what do you think of the theory that Cassandra Nova is really the Ancient One?"
Nonsense. Yeah. But she's bald and a girl. No, I think that's nonsense. All right, what's next?
JCC says, "Continued my Only Murders journey with season 2. Awesome, man. It had a shaky start, but ended really strong for me. Season 2 is actually my least favorite, so you're in for some more, like, much better stuff. Also, I really like the opening credits. What happened to TV openings? They used to be fun, add to the identity of a show. Now a lot are just generic."
I've brought this up before. I think TV show openings today are awful. They're all the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's some abstract thing where with either ink or sand or something coming together with it's a really close up with some like orchestral kind of music or like piano music, and then the picture gets a little better. I mean, they're all the same now.
Yeah.
They're all the same. I mean, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, it's a great one. I love that one. I always stick with it. But now all of them kind of have motifs. Even Shogun. I love Shogun, but like even that opening is just the same concept that like every show does their opening with now. I think that's part of the reason why I love Peacemaker's opening so much. Peacemaker openings is so good. But yeah, what happened to great TV show openings? All right, what's next?
John M says, "John, is this right? Did I read that Joker 2 made around $8 million, almost
Less.
an 80% drop? Is it really deserving of doing this bad? It looked at least competently made, if not a poorly done story. Thoughts, or are the numbers I saw way off?"
Nope, the numbers are there.
You actually gave them a little bit better numbers.
Yeah, you actually gave them, it was less money it made and a bigger drop off
Yeah.
than the credit you gave it for. Look, first of all, to your comment, was it a competently made movie? Listen, if I turned on Joker 2 and muted it, turned off the volume, it's a very competently made movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the cinematography is quite good. I have no issue with the performances in the movie at all. It's just that it's such a horrible story. It's literally, I can't even call it a story. The movie doesn't say anything. It had nothing to say. But again, I never would have, even though I hated the movie personally, I never would have guessed that it would have taken this big of a drop. It's really disturbing, actually. All right, what's next?
Okay, Work of Art says, "Terrifier 3 took Arthur Fleck's name to become the real Art, the killer clown. Congrats to this little indie film dominating a huge film studio movie. Why is this is why horror needs to be respected more by non-believers, Dr. Stinky and the Academy."
No. I
think
again,
this is why it's where it's supposed to be.
I want to keep this in context, okay? And remember, we just did a big piece on like how wonderful of a weekend it was but I want you to also keep in mind it made $18 million.
Right.
And that's great because they spent two. So yeah, on a spreadsheet, that is great. But at the end of the day, it still only made $18 million.
Yeah.
And it's one out of every 10,000 movies that get made like this that will have results like this. So, I mean, again, I'm not trying to take anything away from the remarkable accomplishment of being a $2 million budgeted film with a $500,000 marketing budget and making $18 million in its opening weekend. We've been doing nothing but giving flowers to that all day. But just keep it in context. It's still just $18 million.
Yeah, and exhibitors aren't jumping through the roof because of this. So
No. So like, again, reasons to pop bottles? Absolutely. But also keep it in context. That's all I'm saying. All right, what's next?
Ken says, Vision died twice. Westview Vision is 100% figment of Wanda's imagination, like her kids. Why do we accept White Vision existing and having a TV show in MCU, but say kids make no sense? Because the White Vision was created.
White Vision was built outside, was not created by Wanda's hex.
Right.
White Vision was actually made outside of the hex by the government. They actually made, he is a real physical character that was not created. Like
based off the Vision that died in Endgame.
Yeah. So like the Vision, our version of Vision died twice in Endgame.
Or not Endgame. I kept saying Endgame.
Infinity War.
Infinity War.
And then was created as a figment of Wanda's imagination in the Hex. And then once the Hex came down, he disappeared like the kids. White Vision was not that. White Vision was not a construct of the Hex. He is actually a real thing.
Right.
All right, what's next?
Tender Whispers says, I saw Terrifier 3 last night. Holy crap, this movie should have released with the tagline, F those kids. This film is bonkers. With Terrifier 3 in theaters and Alien Romulus being released digitally on Tuesday, this is a great time for us horror fans.
I am not going to go see Terrifier 3 just because it's not for me, but I love that so many people are. I think that's great.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you brought up Alien Romulus again. That movie was so much better than I thought it would be.
I love that movie.
I had so much fun with Alien Romulus. And I'm glad it had the success it has. And again, I counted that franchise as dead. And man, did they bring it back in such a great way. All right, what's next?
Tender Whispers is back. Says, hey, John, how about them Cowboys? My hometown Lions destroyed them. I hate the Cowboys, so I took much joy in seeing Jerry Jones' playoff hopes being flushed down the drain. I love it.
Listen. We'll talk more about it on Filthy Sports later today. But, I try to tell everybody, this is not a good team. Like, the Steelers have a decent record right now, but they're not actually playing at a high level. Justin Fields is getting wins, but when you actually look at his numbers, he's not doing that well. The Cowboys literally won their last game with a last moment pass that was 3 inches over the goal line. 3 inches the other way, they would have lost. This is a terrible team. They got blown out by the Saints. That turns out the Saints, who have now lost 4 in a row, they got blown out by the Saints that are not a very good team. And now they got just steamrolled by the Lions. And, Dak, who I think Dak is a good quarterback. He's a good quarterback. He is. But he's not a great quarterback. He's not an elite level quarterback. And Dallas tied up all their money in him by making him the highest paid player in NFL history. It's just confounding. And we'll talk more about it on. But how about them Cowboys? All right, what's next?
Okay, we got Brian O'Connor says, do you agree with the idea if you kill a killer, the same number of killers remain in the world? I love many of Batman and Superman stories, but I have to admit my ideologies and philosophies align much more with the Punishers. That works because it's written in a script, but it wouldn't work in real life.
It's written in a script. Look, I am not a person that believes my personal philosophies of life should become mandated in how movies tell their stories. I like seeing stories told about all types of characters doing all types of things. I don't need to just watch movies or stories that just have their hero characters doing what I would do, right? So for that, I don't care. Like, again, I often bring up $1 Million Baby as a great example of this, the Clint Eastwood masterpiece. At the end of that movie, Clint Eastwood's character does something that I would not do. But that does not take away from the movie for me. I watch stories to hear things that characters who are not me, to see what they do and what they say and how they act. I don't go into a movie wanting it to adhere to my own personal philosophy. So you can have a movie with a Batman who won't kill people Great, if it's good. You can have a movie with a Batman that does kill people. Great, if it's good. And I don't judge it based on how well did it align to my own personal ideologies. So that's just kind of the way I look at it at any rate. All right,
Yeah, and
what's
then
next?
he just follows up, am I wrong for putting all of the innocent civilian deaths on heroes like Superman in certain stories who aren't capable of just killing the villains themselves?
I don't know what he means by that.
I guess because, if they let him live, then those deaths, if they were to come back, like you don't kill the Joker and then he goes and kills other people.
Well, I mean, that's kind of like the whole impetus of, like, say, Injustice, Gods Among Us, right? If you read the video game, but also if you read the comic book story or its animation, it's the whole that is brought up a lot. Like, if you had killed Joker, that universe of Superman would say to Batman, if you had killed Joker one of the 100 times that you could have, how many more people would still be alive today? I mean, and I love it when comic book stories or any types of stories present a philosophical dilemma between two different characters. I think it's great when they do that. All right, what's next?
Apollo Creed says, I'm romanticizing it a bit. I'm romanticizing it, I admit, but I refuse to believe Denzel Washington would have taken a role in Gladiator 2 if he didn't think it was genuinely a good story. For that alone, I'm excited for the sequel. To be honest, Denzel doesn't strike me as a paycheck actor. Everyone's a paycheck actor.
Everyone's a paycheck actor. Just some actors get to be more picky.
Right.
Because they will have work whenever they want it.
Right.
Like, there are certain actors, and not all of them are. Everybody thinks any famous actor can work anytime they want. Mm-hmm. That's not true. But there are some who do. Denzel is one of those actors. He can be in anything he wants whenever he wants. Now, that's not to say that every movie Denzel has been in has been fantastic. But it does mean that in the script, it looks like it could be fantastic. And I agree with you. One of the reasons, even though I don't think, Ridley Scott has been good at all, other than The Martian in the last 15 years. I don't think he's been good at all. Like, he's a Hall of Famer director. But in the last 15 years, I don't think he's been good at all. The fact that Denzel looked at this and said, this could be good, that gives me some hope for it. So fingers crossed. Let's see how it works out. All right, what's next?
Send Me Your Blade script says, two-parter plot of Joker 2 barely advances the story. Movie should have started in the courtroom, and within 10 minutes, Arthur gets sentenced to death for his crimes. Arthur's followers, seen at the end of the first movie, Prison Break him out of captivity and take him to an underground lair in Gotham where he finds the leader of the cult, Harley Quinn, who arranged his prison break. Love and madness ensues. The movie then has something to say about evil infesting others around you when society doesn't check itself.
See, there was a great opportunity for all the stuff they talked about in first Joker. And again, I'm not going to say Joker would have been better if you did this and tell my story.
Right.
No. But the potential that lies in the one that you set up at any rate is that you could now transfer your observations and the statements you make about mobs' hive minds, right? There's something to be said there about that. I mean, there's potential. Look, they could have done 100 different things. 100 different things in 100 different ways that would have made this movie better. There's not one thing that they should have done. I just think whatever they did, they should have started it with, here's our story. There literally is no story in Joker 2. It's just literally the post-credits scene to Joker 1. That's all it was. Anyway. All right, what's next?
We got Jason Monthly, who says, would you rather watch a Clint Eastwood courtroom drama set in the Star Trek universe or a psychological supernatural horror thriller, James Wan, set in the Star Wars universe? Please just pick one for fun. Also, it's my last day being 30.
Oh, well, happy early birthday to you.
Boy, I mean, obviously, probably the James Wan seems more fun.
Well,
but...
look, I'll just give it to this. I am more of a Star Wars guy than I am. I love Star Trek, but I'm more of a Star Wars guy than a Star Trek guy. Therefore, I will take the Star Wars option. That's the one I'll go with.
All right.
All right. What's next?
Matthew.
And again, early happy birthday.
Matthew Grant with a two-parter says, I'm really hoping Joe Locke's teen is and stays Billy Weekend. I hope they have a good story as to how, but Billy is such an important character that means so much to people.
He's okay. Oh, anyway.
Oh yeah, part 2. I believe Billy is the first LGBT character who's not there just to be the gay guy. He's a powerfully important member of this team who just happens to be gay. Joe Locke is perfect. I want this to be true.
He's not important in the MCU yet. They have not made him important. I think, look, is it possible? I said this last week. Is it possible that him being Billy / Wiccan is a misdirect? Yeah, it's possible, the way they did Ralph Boner and stuff like that. They made everybody was 100% convinced he was Quicksilver, and he was not. It was a big misdirect. And this is the same showrunner who created WandaVision. Is it possible this is a misdirect? It's possible, but I don't think likely. It is now more likely that that's exactly what they're doing, and that's exactly who they're saying he is. So I think you're probably going to get what you want. I expect that in the next episode, which I think is episode 6. Is that the next episode?
Yes.
I think what we are going to get now in episode 6 is a little bit of an explanation. You know how this week's episode of Penguin was a flashback to see Sophia, and
Right.
now we understand Sophia? I actually think episode 6 of WandaVision, at least half of the episode will be semi-flashback to us seeing who Billy is, how he ends up coming across Agatha. I think we're going to get the full explanation. And I think, again, possible it's a misdirect, sure. But I think it is most likely now at this point, he's exactly who everybody thinks he is. So I think you're going to get your wish here. All right, what's next?
Sholo says, hey, John, hope you and the team enjoy your weekend. I did, for sure. I'm dying to hear your thoughts on Wild Robot. I'm over the moon about it. Did you ever see it?
No, again, Anne's been away.
Yeah.
And I can let you guys know this now. Anne was, Anne wanted me to see it with her, and she's been in Paris. Her and our friend Kat, the girls went off to Paris and had a great time over there. And I swore I wouldn't go see it without her. Anne's back now. She just got back. But so I'll just say this. Anne, other than her immediate family, there was no being in the world that my wife Anne loved more than our dog Lily. Anne literally picked Lily out as the runt in the litter. Went to see the puppies and was the tiniest, smallest runt in the litter that they didn't even think would live for a month or two. But that little runt in the litter was the one that saw Anne and crawled to her. And Anne picked her up 18 years ago. Almost 18 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And there was, other than me and her family, there was no being in the world that Anne loved more. And unfortunately, our dog Lily passed away while Anne was in Paris. Now, I made the decision not to tell her because there was nothing she could do. She was in Paris. I wanted her to enjoy her time. I wanted her to enjoy her experience. So I couldn't even mention it on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Because Anne would know.
Right.
And so a lot of this, the last 48 hours has been dealing with that. Because I had to tell Anne about Lily passing away, and it's very, very sad. And people lose their animals and people lose their dogs. I've lost pets over the year. I've never had a dog for 18 years though.
That is a long run.
Especially for a dachshund.
Yeah.
Lily lived a long, long time for a dachshund. Anyway, all that to say that I have not yet had a chance even yet to see that. I know Anne and I are going to be watching Monday Night Football tonight. I'm very lucky that I'm also married to a rabid sports fan. But in the next couple of days, we are both going to go see Saturday Night and Wild Robot finally. Anyway. All right. What's next?
Okay, we got Nate Dogg, who says, Part 1, Joker 2 is a prime example of what happens when the director makes the movie they want to make without considering the fans. As a director, you have to think of what fans want and then make a movie that gives the fans what they want.
By the way, I disagree with that.
I wholeheartedly disagree with that.
Me too.
Part 2, while still making a film you're happy with. It's a fine line, but if you don't consider the fans, then you end up with Joker 2.
No, I disagree with that. I do. I disagree with that. Because if making a great movie is just, well, what do the fans want? First of all, there is no such thing as the fans. The fan base is an incredibly diverse, splintered group. It always drives me crazy when I see someone say, the fans want this. No, you want that. There's a lot of other fans who want something different than what you want. Anyway, so there's that. But I mean, if it was just that simple, then everybody would make, every single movie would be a big hit. But you have a responsibility to make a good movie. You got a responsibility to make a good movie. That's the thing. It's not, you have to do what the fans wanted.
No.
Who are the fans? I know a lot of fans of Joker that didn't want Arthur Fleck to be the Batman Joker. I know a lot of fans of the first Joker that did want him to be that Joker. So when you say what the fans want, what you're really saying is what you want, not what everybody else. I just had this big debate with somebody talking about another movie altogether, saying the fans wanted this. I'm like, excuse me, I'm a huge fan of that thing, and that's not what I wanted. And I know other people that feel like me. So anyway, there's that. It's not about making something that the fans want. It's making something that's good. Where real movie magic happens is when you make something great that is not what the fans expected. And then the fans fall in love with it. I mean, that's the big thing. So no, I don't agree at all that Joker 2 is an example of when you don't do what the fans wanted. Number one, you mean your segment of the fans. But number two, the problem with Joker 2 is not that Todd Phillips didn't do what the fans wanted, because again, there's no such thing. It's that he didn't make a good movie. Guess what? Joker 1 was not what the fans wanted.
No.
Joker 1, 100% was not what the fans wanted. But you know what it was? It was a great movie, so the fans got on board with it. We as the fans got on board with it. We loved it. Made $1 billion, won all these awards, and it was nothing like any of the comic book iterations of Joker ever. It was not what the fans asked for, but he made a brilliant movie, and thus it became a huge hit. Problem was, he didn't make a brilliant movie the second time around. In my opinion, in my subjective opinion, he didn't make a brilliant movie the second time around. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that's the problem, was that he made a bad movie. Anyway. All right, what's next?
Ronetta says, hi, y'all. I love the Saturday Night Movie and how they showed how chaotic it was at night. All the actresses were great and funny. The Penguin just keeps getting better and better. That ending was chef's kiss. Few also saw Deadpool and Wolverine 16
For the
times.
16th time.
My goodness.
Look, there's some really, really good stuff out there. There's some really good stuff out, like on television and in the movie theater right now. We are really lucky. There's some really great. I mean, yes, Joker was very high profile because the first one was so beloved and such a success and won all the Oscars and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, let's not let the fact that there is some really bad stuff out there obscure the fact that there is also some really great stuff out there right now to enjoy. And that's always the great thing about being a fan of this stuff, is that there's always something great and interesting to watch. All right, what's next?
Tomato Soup says, when I went to watch Pharrell Williams' new Lego doc, Piece by Piece, cute and fun little movie. They played the Wicked trailer remade with Lego pieces, which was interesting marketing for the toys and movie. Might sway some families.
That is very creative.
That's really cool, but I also hope they make it clear Wicked is not a Lego movie. Like, I'm sure people got the joke. Oh my God,
yeah, because if you did confuse some people about that, I mean, look, anybody who sees the poster or the other trailers will know for sure. But that, you know, we've seen movies specifically target their trailer depending on another movie that's out or that it's playing in front of before.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen often, but it's really fun when they do it. And that's a very creative thing to do. I like that. Now I'm going to go out and try to see that. That's great. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says Starsky and Hutch 04 cast was solid. Would love to see another movie with Miles Teller, Glenn Powell, and keep Snoop as Huggy Bear and Simu Liu as the villain.
Well, I mean, so that one was Ben Stiller and was it Owen Wilson?
Yeah.
It was another Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson collab. I mean, Snoop as Huggy Bear was great. I love Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson. I especially like them together as a team. I did not love that. I'm not gonna lie to you. I didn't love that Starsky and Hutch movie.
It had moments. To this day, I still say, like, I like your moves. I like your style. It's like, I like your style. I like your moves.
Has its moments.
Yeah.
Has its moments. I do like your idea, like, of doing it again. Who was it? Glenn Powell and who?
Let's see. Let me bring it up. It was, Miles Teller. Oh, that could be funny though.
You know what? If I heard an announcement tomorrow that they were going to take another shot at a Starsky and Hutch, and it was Glenn Powell and Miles Teller,
I'd like to see Miles Teller in a spoof movie.
I'd be down for that. I mean, doesn't even have to be a spoof. Just be a comedy, yes, but doesn't necessarily have to be a spoof. I'd be down for watching that.
I'd still want Ben Stiller behind this, writing and directing, either writing it or writing and directing it.
Like do it in the vein of, even though it didn't do well financially, Fall Guy. Yeah. Because Fall Guy was great. So you do something like that and bring back Snoop as Huggy Bear again? That could be good. I'd be down for that. All right, what's next?
Mr. I says, that movie scooper on the level of Gus's gas station movie reviews.fart wife, nails on pastries and movie gossip.queef reported that Art, the clown actor, David Howard Thornton wants to be the DCU's Joker. Your thoughts, and is it typecasting? But he's behind makeup. I mean, if that's real.
Every actor wants to play Joker. Like, what's the story here? Little unknown actor wants to play a big, huge, famous icon character.
Yeah.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that, but not news either. I don't really see anything. Of course he would love to.
Actor seeking work.
Yes. Find me an actor who doesn't get a lot of work and ask them, would you like to play the Joker? Which one would say no? Not many. So, and no, it wouldn't be typecast at all. No, because look, again, at the end of the day, because we've been celebrating the success of Terrifier, but at the end of the day, at $18 million opening, that basically means almost nobody saw it. So it wouldn't be typecasting because nobody really knows him in that anyway. And he's behind all the makeup. All right, what's next?
Quad Face. Oops. See, I don't know why this is like cutting off. Here we go. Quadface says, hey, cousins, I just saw Abigail. I don't know why, but after it, I thought Dan Stevens would make a great Bruce Wayne. Also, Jonathan, is Acorns better than Robin Hood for stocks? Also, I sent in the question about Starsky and Hutch. Okay, so that was Quadface who did that. Well, Acorns is just a great app. It's just like, it's for people who want to passively invest.
Yeah, there's a huge difference between Acorns and Robin Hood, though. Acorns is not an investment app. Right? I mean, it will invest money, but a Robin Hood is a, what's the word for it? They are a brokerage. Mm-hmm. In essence, Robin Hood is like a brokerage. You go on there, you use their platform to buy and sell stocks. That is not what Acorns is. All right? Acorns, who is one of the sponsors of our show, and I am not a financial expert, I'm not giving financial advice, just to be clear, but Acorns is great. Like, I'll open up mine.
Yeah, I mean, I've had Acorn since 2020.
Yeah, so I've had it before that, right? So the great thing about Acorns is you set it up and you basically tell it, you tell the app to, every time I spend money using my debit card, round it up to the next dollar and put that in my Acorns account. So if I spend $1.80 on something at the store, it'll round it up 20 cents and put 20 cents in my Acorn account. So you don't even notice, right? Next time, if I go to dinner, I spend $67.20 at Chili's. Well, then it'll take 80 cents and put it in my Acorn account. And then all of a sudden, I remember when I first started using it years ago, I just set it up and forgot about it. And then months later, I just open it up and I'm like, oh my God, I got like $380 in here.
Mm-hmm.
And it grows because it takes that $380 and puts it into a portfolio that then also grows. And then I liked it so much, I started telling it, hey, don't just take out my spare change.
Add to it, right?
Do me a favor and deposit, what did I tell it at first? $5 a week.
Yeah.
On top of the spare change, take $5 a week. And I eventually changed that to like $50 a week. And then before I knew it, I had thousands of dollars in there, like all that kind of, anyway, it's just fun for that. But it's a very, very different thing from Robinhood, which is a platform you then use to go in to select to buy stocks and funds and things like. It's a totally different thing. Yeah, don't confuse the two.
Yeah. It could be a gateway, but yeah, different.
Yes, it's definitely a gateway because it got me like I started using it years and years and years ago, and it's really wonderful. I like it a lot. All right, what's next?
We got Mike, who cheese Harry. Someone I know was at the UK advanced screenings for Terrifier 3, the one where people walked out and vomited. The 500K publicity machine behind this film just blatantly lied. None of that ever happened, but it makes a good story.
I wouldn't be surprised. Well, first of all, there is no better advertising for a movie like Terrifier 3 to say people walked out. That's actually great buzz. Not so much for Joker 2. You don't want to hear people, but you're making a slasher film that's supposed to be all gory and everything, and you say, oh, there are people walking out. That's great. It might have been at another screening. I don't know that they necessarily, just because it didn't happen at that screening doesn't mean it didn't happen at others. Because I could see people just going, oh, a little horror film called Terrifier 3, okay, and then going in and maybe getting grossed out and walking out. I can see that happening. So maybe it was a different screening. I don't know. But either way, whatever they did worked pretty well, right? And whatever they seemed to work pretty well. All right, what's next?
Mr. I with a two-parter. So Eric Voss on New Rockstars had a great theory on Teen being Billy and Agatha. Basically, there's a Young Avengers run. Billy Kaplan is the reincarnated soul of Billy Maximoff, caused by Wanda's chaotic magic with her death. That may be the red flash we saw when
Mount Wundagore.
Yeah, Mount Wundagore collapsed on her. Remember, there was a Wiccan mural in there as well. This Billy and Tommy are not biologically hers, but her soul magic took them over. This pull from the comics is the best explanation I've seen. And that was a $20 tip. Thank you.
And by the way, New Rockstars, they're great. I really like the New Rockstars. We also happen to be represented by the same business guy, New Rockstars and I.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, again, the issue I have with it, though, is that it's so wildly outlandish when you look at the continuity and context of what we've had in the MCU and on screen. I really just think they should have gone in another direction. But again, they haven't. They seem to be adopting this. And as long as it turns out good, I'm fine then. Like at the end of the day, when it comes to movies and TV shows, what I want is something good, not what lines up with what I thought they should have done. If it ends up good, it ends up good. The bottom line, that's all it is. And if this ends up good, then I'm all for it. Do I think it's what they should have done? No. Does it make any logical sense for what they've done in the MCU up to this point? No, makes no sense whatsoever. But if it works, like you can use ingredients in a cookie that I maybe don't think you should use those ingredients. But if I take a bite of that cookie and it tastes good, at the end of the day, that's all that matters. And as long as it works out well, I'm okay with it. All right, what's next?
We got Mr. I, one more comic clue to an explanation. Jimmy Kaplan's dad, Jeff Kaplan, a chiropractor, is a wannabe home chef, which would explain my dad loves these when Billy gets the sous vide in episode 2, or it could be Mephisto all along.
Yeah, again, the one thing I'm saying, remember, I'm saying that at this point, the most likely thing that's going to happen is that they are saying it's Billy and Wiccan, right? Let me be clear. I am just saying, let's not, remember, everybody was 100% convinced that that was Quicksilver in WandaVision. Everyone was 100% convinced that was Quicksilver, and it wasn't. The MCU is not immune from giving us these big misdirects. So while I believe the odds are, if I had to put $5 on it now, it's Billy Wiccan. That's what they're doing. I'm just saying, don't fall out of your chairs. When does the new episode come out? Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Don't fall out of your seat on Wednesday if they pull some kind of misdirect and it turns out it's not. Because even if they did that, and I don't think they are, just for the record, I don't think they are, but if they do that, that won't even be the biggest misdirect they've ever done. So probably it's Billy Wiccan. That's where my money goes. But I'm just saying, let's not be shocked if it turns out it's a misdirect. All right, what's next?
We got Her Name is Rio says the new Agatha All Along mid-season trailer flat out shows Agatha calling the teen Billy Maximoff.
Oh, I haven't seen the new trailer.
Oh, wow.
That's why I said it's most likely that's what they're doing. Anyway.
See, these trailers, episodic trailers are they can be spoilery. Funny coincidence that, like the Penguin, Agatha's episode this week is also a flashback episode. This one focusing on Billy. Questions will be answered.
Again, I have not seen said trailer.
Yeah.
So that when I was saying earlier, I bet the next episode is going to be like the Penguin episode, I have not seen the trailer. So I just said that thinking we're probably going to get Billy's background now, what brought Billy to this. So I guess the trailer that's come out for it kind of says that explicitly. So
yeah, I wish
that was right.
I wish they would just run those trailers like right after the episode as opposed to just dropping
them.
them.
A lot of shows do that, right? Like
with streaming,
like
it's
Game of Thrones, right? Game of Thrones will go, they'll show you like a quick 1 minute preview of what's coming next week. I wish kind of Agatha did that as well.
Well, we got The Tick. This is our final with the tips. It's a 3-part. Well, it says 2, but I think it's 3. With filmmakers expressing frustration with Netflix's model, are TV and showrunners far behind? Please tell me know if I've misunderstood something. On one hand, I totally get it. On the creative side, Netflix would allow someone to make their show. But at some point, surely they're thinking, I've got bills to pay, hundreds of people working on this need to be paid. 10 episodes, maybe a second season, but that's probably 2 years away. And likely Netflix will pull the plug soon anyway. That's not enough. I know the network model had no guarantees either, but consistent work and paydays for 6 to 8 months, plus annual renewals felt possible compared to Netflix, where it's made clear that won't happen. If it were me, that's where I'd likely take my chances.
That was not a very well communicated. I'm not really sure completely what it is they're asking.
I'm not quite sure, other than the difference in network versus
like if you're talking about
Netflix.
If you're talking about the Netflix model. No, you know what? Who made a really good video about this? I forget his last name. The guy who does Adam Ruins Everything.
Mm-hmm.
What's that? Can you look up what his last name is?
Yeah.
But he has his own YouTube channel now. It's Adam something is his name, and I'm freezing on his name. But he has a Conover. People in the live chat are saying it's
Conover, Adam Conover.
Adam Conover. All right. So I would go look it up. He did a video a number of weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago, that was basically like just completely on streaming has ruined everything. Now, he is himself a WGA member. He is a writer as well. Again, I used to love his show, Adam Ruins Everything. I thought it was great. And I loved it, disagreeing with a lot of his episodes, but it's just so well put together that I love hearing good cases and good arguments, even when I disagree with them. If you lay out a good case and lay out, that's why I love, there's a lot of film critics that I love, even though I end up having a completely different opinion on a movie than them. Some of my favorite film critics are ones that I don't always agree with. Anyway, but he has a great video that he did on his YouTube channel, again, just a few weeks or even just a month or two ago, on how streaming ruins everything. And he talks a lot about the model, like specifically like say Netflix lays out, about the limitation on the run, how much work there is, the gaps that happen between them, and how quickly they get canceled, and how that kind of format is ruining good narrative storytelling. And, you know, he points out there are flaws as well with the old cable model. There are, but there are advantages to the old cable model as well. And he goes into, again, I would highly, highly, highly recommend go and look up that YouTube video, Adam Conover streaming. I can't remember the exact name of the video, but I think that will go well and address as well what you're talking about. I think he makes some really, really interesting points in that video.
All right.
All right.
We'll move on to our members here.
Yes, we got some time for some member questions.
Top Gun Manny says, went to the Hans Zimmer concert on Friday. It was so awesome.
It was so good.
Didn't think the Lion King piece was going to move me the way it did. It was amazing. In 2 weeks, I have Across the Spider-Verse concert at Dolby Theater.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
The Hans Zimmer concert was so much more than I expected it to be. And I didn't even realize that Hans Zimmer did the Lion King music. Didn't even know until they started playing it. I'm like, wait a minute, is this Hans Zimmer? And they played it. It was so good. That number was great.
Yeah.
Loved it. All right, what's next?
We got the Yankee. I know it's early, but which series was better this year, Shogun or the Penguin?
Shogun.
Going to be so hard to decide if the Penguin sticks the landing.
Nope, even if it sticks the landing, Shogun. Shogun's one of the best shows I've seen in years.
Well, the scope of Shogun
Penguin
was so
is
huge.
great. But again, I put Shogun with and even above shows like Last of Us, House of the Dragon. I think Penguin is remarkably good. Like I think it's the best thing airing right now. I don't think it's in the conversation with, but I don't think it's on the same tier as say Last of Us and that, but it's right up there in the conversation. It's absolutely remarkable. But yeah, Shogun. For me, it's Shogun. All right, what's next?
Callum says, hey crew, I went to see Transformers 1 yesterday for my birthday. I love the movie. I hope they do a sequel. Do you think it's likely to happen?
It's not likely, but there's a chance because so many people like it. I'm hoping what Paramount will do is look at that and say, you know what? Because that's what they're doing with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? What was the name of the latest Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
That was Mutant Mayhem.
Mutant Mayhem. It did not make much money at all, but everybody loved it. Everybody who saw it loved it. So they're making a sequel because they believe since everybody loved it, that we'll make more money the second time around. My hope is they apply that same philosophy to Transformers 1. Transformers 1 is going to lose them a lot of money. So I really hope, I wouldn't be surprised, and I don't blame them if they don't make a second one, but I think the chance exists that they will because everybody who saw it loved it. So here's hoping. All right, what's next?
Cockroach writes, hi crew, half kidding, half serious here. With Zaslav's past examples of writing off movies for tax breaks and the catastrophe that is Joker 2, do you think they're wishing they could switch a previously canned film with this one? I imagine the losses would have been smaller. Thank you for all that you do.
Losses are losses. I don't think it's a matter of, look, again, when it comes down to it, with Joker 2, every studio on the planet would have greenlit this movie. Every studio. There's not one you can name that would not have greenlit a Joker 2. Where I think Warner Brothers made their big mistake was letting the director have complete autonomy with the film. You should never give a director that. Unless their name is Spielberg, Nolan, or Scorsese, you should never give complete autonomy to a director. And this is what happens. This is what the end result was. And that was a big mistake. But, you know, they did the right thing. And when they canned Batgirl, that was the right decision. I mean, in hindsight, should they have just canned Joker 2? Yeah, probably. In hindsight. But again, no, even then, no, because the reality is, as much as it's flopping, it has still made $165 million, right? That's $165 million more. That would exceed any tax write-off they would have had. So it's probably good that they were, and it's probably by the end, when it's all said and done, it's probably going to make about $180 million.
Yeah.
Which is still a huge money loser, but it would represent less of a loss than even if they wrote it off for tax purposes. So it's probably ended up being the right decision. All right, what's next?
Okay, Arterial says, hey, y'all, know it's not your cup of tea, but the wife and I had the best time on Terrifier 3. Such a blast. It's like you always said, it's an experiential event. It was refreshing from our disappointment in Joker 2.
Well, they wrote spiritual event, but yes, I do not say movies are spiritual. They're experiential events. And that's one of the great things about horror movies. Look, every kind of movie delivers a different type of experience, right? Some give you laughter and joy, thought, contemplation, fear, anxiousness, dread, whatever. Movies are experience. They're meant to deliver you an experience. And when you get horror movies, particularly this type of, they're trying to deliver a certain kind of an experience. And if it delivers that and you come out of there having had an enjoyable experience, that's all that matters. And I'm glad you were able to have a good time with it. And okay, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it, and all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. Hey, listen, if any of you guys are sports fans, we have another show on another channel called Filthy Sports, and we're going to be doing that at 4 p.m. Pacific time. That's about 3.5 hours from now. If you guys are into sports, come on by and join us for that. So, for Jonathan Voico,
See you guys.
my name's John Campea. Thanks a lot for being here, guys, and until tomorrow, my friends, bye-bye.